Can you express to me how you feel? What's happening? I find that really upsetting.
How do you see the changes that are happening?
With AI, you mean? I thought it was sort of like magical, really.
Because of the dangers, the fighting?
Yeah. I feel like crying now.
In this episode of the Mood Podcast, I sat down with Giovanna Aryafara. In terms of photography, Giovanna and I have a lot in common, so it was fascinating to hear her philosophies and experiences behind her wonderful imagery. We discussed her evolution as a photographer from an art, design, and craft background, having been the owner of a successful home living decor brand in Bali for the last decade. Furthermore, we talked about her business skills, her process behind photography, and her thoughts on things like the future of visual arts, photography etiquette, and how to give back with one's craft. I'm excited to follow on my conversations with Giovanna, especially at her book launch in just a few months' time. So please watch out for that on her profiles. And so, without further ado, here is Giovanna Aryafara. The craft side of your, I guess, artwork came first, right? Is that where photography emanated from? And you're interested in humanities.
Well, it's been a sort of a long process for photography. My first job when I was 17 was in a photography studio in New Zealand. I was brought up in Australia, but I went to New Zealand. So that was black and white, at the beginning stages. And then I became a school photographer because I love photography, but it was black and white photography. And then I was there when it changed to colour, which was a really big deal. It's like, oh, this is the end of photography now, it's going to colour. Ansel Adams would be, so upset.
Yeah.
So I went through that stage. That gave me a lot of insight into photographing children because I did that for about 7 years. And then I went into homewares, photography. Then I worked with a company in Australia, which I still work with, called Spirit Publishing. We do cards together. And I've been doing that with them for 20 years. So it's always been there, and doing something a little bit different, a little bit exotic, thinking outside the box a little bit for photography. So when we came to Bali, I've been here for about 15 years. We opened up the homeware stores and the photography. I was putting the photography in the stores and I could see that there's a market for, interior designers, and that was fairly new. I think that's only started maybe about that time where people are using photography, big pieces of photography.
On cushions and...
No, not on cushions, in their house.
Okay, so prints.
Yeah, like black and white or some sort of feature piece. So that's sort of how I think my niche market is, working with interior designers, with homewares and photography. And a lot of photographers that want to sell their work know to sell it's either in galleries, which they don't like doing because they can't pick where it's going to go in the gallery, and also they pay too much. So the best place is actually homeware stores because people are doing their own interior design now, not like before you get an interior designer. So a lot of women are really interested in that, want to do it themselves. So with me designing cushions and throws and being inspired by where I travel, bringing that out in the photography, that's where it sort of stemmed from.
And going back 30 years when you first picked up a camera, why did you pick up a camera? What was the interest that sparked?
I actually think it went back to, Cartier-Bresson, Ansel Adams, seeing that photography. It was so different to what I'd seen. So I think that interest was there. And then when I was in New Zealand, this job offer came to work in a studio. And I thought it was sort of like magical, really. I remember that feeling when you're younger, your senses are heightened a lot more than when you're older. But I remember at the time that feeling of like, this is so incredible, or printing them, it's sort of like magic. So I've always loved photography, but there's been so many changes,
Yeah, I mean...
Even now it's changing so much.
Yeah.
Have to be aware of what's going on and embrace it, really. Otherwise you sort of get left behind.
How do you see the changes that are happening
With AI, you mean?
AI, mainly AI. I mean, that's the biggest thing that's just impacting our industry, right? What is your
I don't
view
know.
on
I
that?
mean, I changed my camera to an R5 Canon R5 mirrorless. And the reason why I changed that from the Mark IV was because of, the eye tracking and things like that. And then I, through a friend, through Mitty actually, she told me I probably should change all my equipment, all my gear for a Sony, which I did actually. I changed to the Sony Alpha R5, the mirrorless. But the AI in that's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Like they actually work out what people are doing. If you're walking behind, a tree, the AI actually works what they're going to do, where they're going to come back, what they're going to do. And it's sort of, I found that in my last trip mind-blowing. And I kept on saying that the whole time, like, this is amazing. I just hope it's in focus because it just seems so much easier.
Yeah.
Like before, I was always sort of trying to get the eye and make it really clear. And with the Sony, it was slightly bizarre, actually. I couldn't quite get over it. So we're just looking at the photos now from my last trip. It's sort of like, are they in focus? Because it was sort of incredible, really, how it tracked. But yeah, they said, yeah, it's, they're really, really clear. So I had a look at them, the eyes, but it was just tracking them. So I think that's pretty major. That's a big jump.
Is that
is it a good thing?
Yeah, good thing or bad thing? It's maybe we don't have to put a label on it. We don't have to judge it so much. But
I feel that you have to keep judging it. Yeah, that was my first experience because it was the new camera. And I kept on thinking, I think I've changed in the way I'm taking photos, whereas before I spent a little bit more time with people because I was trying to get the focus right in their eye. Whereas I found this time it was just very quick. I'd just be talking to them and it's like, oh, got that one. So I think it'll take time for me to understand this new system.
Yeah, and whether that will take time away from the connection you have with people or the opposite.
Exactly.
Because if you don't have to worry so much on the technical aspect and the AI is automated for you, you're taking a task away, maybe you can have more.
Maybe.
Or the other, you take a shot off to the next one. So it depends.
And I think I have to get used to that.
Yeah.
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 So why people? Why, you obviously had an interest in photographing children at school. And then now, as a portrait photographer, a lot of your work is based out of Africa. Should we say, the majority of your work?
Yeah, it used to be India because of the company I was working with in Australia, the card company. So most of it was from India. And I used to travel to India. I used to do a lot of sourcing in India for the homewares. So it sort of worked. But they wanted a new collection of cards. So that's why I went to Africa. But when I went to Africa and went to the Omo Valley, I was just blown away how incredible they were, how artistic they are. Yeah.
In what way?
Well, with their body paint that they've been doing for hundreds of years. And they're so talented, so creative, but not using anything. Like you don't see iPhones or iPads with the kids, they're sort of very much in nature, inspired by nature. And I just absolutely love that.
What do they use to paint their faces with? The white?
Yeah, it's sort of clay. It's from the stone. They grind the stone down. So the stones are different colors.
Oh, okay.
And then they mix it with a little bit of water, maybe some animal fat, and then they design it. And often people say, oh, do you do it? And it's like, no way, I couldn't do it like that. And also,
I want to see you doing it.
And also if you go up to them and sort of change it, they don't like it. They're the artists, so so I find that really incredible. And I've got to know them a lot because I've been going back for about 6 years.
Okay.
And sort of I've known them from when they're quite young. So when I come back, I know the mums. And
so you go to the same place each time?
I go to different tribes, but I've got a connection with one particular tribe, with the family. That's a bit of a long story, but it's just incredibly inspiring. Yeah, but it's a bit difficult. It's getting more difficult now, I think.
Because of the dangers, the
there's
fighting?
A bit of danger, but also now there's a big road that's been built through, and they're building sugarcane factories, and they're giving work to the tribes, and you see them sort of coming back from the sugarcane, plantations, and they're in old t-shirts, holes in the t-shirt, and you see them, you sort of feel sorry for them. They look really poor. But when you go to the tribes with the flowers, and they just seem so proud of themselves and they're so happy, and I just like supporting that, actually. Yeah. So that's what's changing. Yeah.
And so where was your last trip? Over there?
The last trip's Kenya.
Kenya.
And then I went through Lamu Island on the way back.
Okay.
Which was fantastic. Didn't want to leave.
And do you normally go with groups or yourself, or mix of both?
Mix of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends. If it's very difficult to get to a particular tribe and you can't go on your own, I'll go with a group. But I think, and then I've gone on my own where I've actually hired, drivers and things like that. And that's quite challenging, if a truck breaks down and things like that. So I think it's getting to the point where I'll end up just doing it on my own, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then when you have a selection of photos, you do a tour.
Yeah.
What then do you do with your photos? How do you kind of?
So I just bring them back I've got a little team that I have here, and we've worked together very closely. They know exactly what I like. In fact, before I leave, we have a little meeting about what I should shoot, because we know pretty much what my followers are wanting. Like, I've got quite a big following, and I've spoken to other photographers, and they've said, oh, you shouldn't take any notice of Instagram, like you put a picture of a cat on there and you can get so many likes. I don't find that. I find that they actually direct me quite clearly into the direction I should be going into. So we discuss that before I leave. So when I go, I sort of know what I'm looking for. I know the shots that I'm looking for. Yeah.
Can you give me an example? So, if people, so how do they direct? They just, commenting on your posts, or do you reach out to a lot of your followers, or do they DM you, or what? How does the?
Yeah, I get a lot of direct messages, and also by the amount of likes. Like sometimes, you get 18,000 likes, and then you get 300 comments.
Yeah.
And then direct messages, and then they will tell you what they like about that particular photo, what moved them about that photograph. So I think you get quite directed. And then I've gone off track a little bit. Like I've gone to a country to, like, I went to the Camargue for the white horses of the Camargue.
No, I don't know about that. So tell us about it.
Well, it's an island. It's in the south of France, and they're all white horses, and they're all wild horses.
Okay.
And you can actually, you take photos of them. They're super friendly. It's really incredible because they're not tame. They're wild, and they just, they have people that sort of look after them. But you get these really amazing photos. So I decided that that could work for my genre as well. That feeling of freedom and horses and all the rest of it. So when I started posting them, I was losing my followers at the same time. And
really?
So, yeah, we discuss this a lot. Sometimes I'll say, oh, I want to go to Tibet, take photographs of Tibet, and we'll sit around and they go, not really. That's not really why people want to follow you or even buy your photography. They've put you into a genre. Your followers have said, this is where we like you to be. And I'm happy about that. I'm really happy where they want me to be, because that's probably the direction that I personally want to go in anyway. It's quite interesting. But you have to take notice, I think.
Yeah, otherwise you know,
like when people say, oh, you can post a cat and everyone will, like it. I don't see it like that. I feel that I get quite close to a lot of my followers as well, that have been following me for years. And they'll often say to me as well, why don't you go back to that style? And oh, yeah, okay. And they're right.
Do you think you can exhaust that style and that genre, or is it just an endless?
No, I try and go out of that a little bit. Yeah, I test out little things. Yeah. Like that's why the last trip I wanted to go to the Pokot tribe, because they're very difficult to photograph because they're nomads. And when I've come back, they're the shots that I really nailed because I really wanted to photograph them. Yeah, they're amazing, beautiful.
Can you tell us about the tribe?
Yeah, they're nomads for a start, so you don't quite know where they are. Mm-hmm. So they're not, tourists don't really see them at all. So they're very traditional, but they wear these really amazing neck pieces, and all the beads mean different colors.
Okay.
The feathers identify, you know, if they're elders or how much they're respected. So everything is very symbolic of what they wear, and they wear them all the time, you know, day and night. And just thinking of taking those photos now, it was just so amazing. I think it's because they're untouched as well. But and the black and white photos were nice. And the respect they have for the elders, I really like that as well.
What are the challenges that you have when you, other than obviously finding them if they're nomadic, but once you're there, and especially if it's a new tribe that you haven't been with before, what do you know, do you get nervous? What do you make mistakes on? What do you find that you are really comfortable with?
Yeah, what I feel now, not so much before, but what I feel now is that I need to spend more time with them. And if you're traveling in a group, which makes it easier, right? Because they've got the drivers, they'll take you there, they know where the tribes are. But you really have to get to know them. You really have to spend more time with them. And that is difficult on your own.
Yeah.
But there are some photographers that do that, and I really admire them for it. But maybe being a female could be a little bit challenging as well. But really, that's what you need to do, I think, now.
I think that's the art of portraiture, to be honest, is not just snapping a photo of a human. It's building a connection with them before you even pick up a camera. Yeah,
exactly. So when you do go in these little groups, you don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me some of your inspirations. I know you met Mitty, who is obviously one of your heroes.
Yeah.
Who else in the kind of
in the photography world?
In the photography world that you look up to or have tried to admire over years?
I've always loved Steve McCurry.
Yeah.
Even though he's a bit controversial now, but I remember seeing his photography as a travel photographer. When I first saw it, I wanted to be like that. I wanted to produce the magic, you know. And then people say, "Oh, he set it up." Well, it's not that easy even to set up shots. But I love his photography. Yeah, he'd probably be the most influential, I think. And now I do follow other photographers that I enjoy looking at them and what they're doing and how they travel. And I've met some of the photographers as well that I really enjoy. But I think generally I'm pretty much doing my own sort of thing now. Yeah, my own genre.
Yeah.
My own brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel, like I'm a bit of a brand now.
Yeah. Well, it's wonderful work. Absolutely love it.
Thanks.
I hope to see you in Africa at some point. I need to get back there.
Yeah, well, it'd be great to travel with someone like you. I think that's what I was saying before. I think now you have to think about who you travel with, not just a group. Yeah, you have to think. And I think now if I traveled with someone, it would have to be another photographer who sees the same sort of things and the same sort of energy. I think that would be really amazing.
Yeah. I totally understand. Even in a studio, if I have friends who we shoot in a studio in here with, it's difficult. You know, you might have different ideas of things, and then you might end up copying each other if you're using the same kind of setup, right? Or you just get in each other's way, or it's just, you know, photography, as much as I like and don't like this fact, but it is an individual sport, right? It is an individual pursuit. So to go and do it with someone else is always like, it can be amazing. You can be inspired and you can kind of work together.
If
it's the right person, but it's very, very difficult.
Yeah. And I noticed that coming from the last trip in Kenya, and then I went to Lamu Island. And when I went to Lamu, I went on my own. And because I'd heard so much about it, for interior designers as well. Have you heard about Lamu Island?
Yes,
like
I have.
It's 13th century, it's Swahili style. And so I went there just to be inspired mainly for the architecture. But of course, you know, spotted the Maasai as soon as I got there. And then there was some camels that I think there's like 4 or 5 camels on the island. And they were beautiful camels. Like in India, they always have, you know, the spike through their nose, and, you know, that's how it is. Whereas these camels were really relaxed. They just sort of were like dogs following the people, you know, on the beach. So then there's dhow boats.
Mm-hmm.
Dhow boats.
Mhm.
There's Maasai. There's camels.
So much.
Swahili. I was in heaven. I didn't want to leave. So I just sat and talked to the guys, first of all, probably for about an hour. They were amazed that I was actually so interested in them, because I do follow their journey, what's happening now and how they're losing their land rights. It's a very difficult time for them. But I'm very interested in that. So I got to talk to them, and then I asked them, whether I could do a little bit of a photo shoot, and we'd exchange some of their jewelry. And so we sort of set this up. So this is on my own, and we sort of met in the morning and walked on the sand dunes. And then I took some photos, and then I said, oh, come on, let's just go and sit down and talk. And then I took some photos, and then I said, and we were talking about what's happening. And I said, can you express to me how you feel, what's happening to your tribe, what's happening to you and your family? And he did this incredible position like this. And I snapped that photo. I've shown that photo to people here, and they've been in tears. I feel like crying now.
Yeah. And what is...
So if I was with other photographers, I'd never have got a shot like that.
No.
Because it's too intimidating. You might be talking to them, the other photographer's trying to take the photo, or, it's all disjointed. So I think to get that really personal feel, you have to be on your own, or another photographer that allows you to have that time on your own, not sort of thinking, oh my God, I better get in there and get that photo because that's a great one, So you'd have to have a big understanding between each other, which would be magic.
Or you, I'll come back to that in a minute, but,
Yeah.
or you go together, but you are doing separate things.
And then come together
Exactly.
and say, this is what I experienced today. And that is so incredible to experience that these days in this lifestyle that we have.
Yeah. That's what I would prefer, because I know exactly how you feel, and that the magic of
you have to feel it first. You have to experience that,
Yeah.
right, before you get to this point.
Yeah, for sure.
But obviously you got to that point earlier than I did.
Well, I'm less of a...
I think so.
I guess I'm probably less nice than you. I'm certainly less agreeable. Like, and my time is because I don't.
I'd say that's right. I think that's where I'm getting there now.
Because I don't do photography full time. So when I do it, I'm like nothing. Like I need to be so focused. I can't waste any of my time.
Yeah.
I can't have, even if I had my best mate with me, it's like, just fuck off for like a day. Just leave me to get those. And if I miss those types of moments that you're talking about, I'd regret it for the rest of my life. Yeah. Like, for me, that's everything. Yeah. And so I just don't ever want to risk that. I also want to share experiences with people.
Exactly.
So it's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my realization, actually, when I took that photo. I thought it was a bit of a turning point for me, actually. But now, as you say, you don't really want to do it on your own. You want to experience it with another photographer, but they have to be on the same wavelength. Yeah. And that would be incredible,
So tell me about his story. So he gives you this reaction, obviously this visceral, emotional reaction. What is the story behind that? What is happening to his land?
To the Maasai?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the new Prime Minister, we better not get into politics, but a lot of the land from the Maasai is now very valuable because it's got a lot of, tigers and like lions, and there's a big market for trophy hunting. Yep. Like they pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go there. Yep. So what they're doing is they're trying to move the Maasai off the land, and it wasn't that long ago that they came with tear gas and machine guns and shot some of them. And there was 11 elders, I mean, you can read about this yourselves, that wanted to actually face and say, you can't do this, this is our land. And the 11 of them, all the elders, all got arrested and put in jail.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're just relocating them without any animals because, cows and, they're just losing everything. And that's why they're sort of moving to places like Lamu to try and make some money. Yeah. And but yeah, it's just tragic. Yeah.
And purely because
trophy
of trophy hunting.
Mm.
Oh God, that makes it even
Yeah.
worse. It's not
Yeah.
even for like commercial purposes or like agriculture or setting up factories or the kind of modernization that you see with many
and
other
it's all
tribes.
the land
It's
that
for
they've been
fucking
looking
trophies.
after. Yeah, trophy hunting is a very big thing, and so talking to them about what's happening, and they just feel that there is no help. That's what they said to me, that no one will help, and the people that do want to help, they just get arrested and taken away. Because they don't have any land rights. That's happening a lot with the tribes, though. Even in the Omo, they're losing a lot of them because they're not really well educated. So power is education, and they're not being educated. So they just come in and sort of taking their land. So that's why I think it's, for me, when I talk to them about taking their photos, it's sort of like documenting them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, timeless documentation, because before you know it, they won't be around.
No, yeah.
Or there'll be
they're in the
much
sugar plantations and things like that to try and earn some money. Yeah. So
that's my drive as well for my genre of photography, is to try and capture as many tribes that are being lost to either that, which I didn't know it was because of trophy hunting. I just thought it was just general modernization, which we see across all kind of authentic tribes around the world. Is just as the world gets bigger, as the world gets more modern and westernized or globalized, you end up seeing just a decline in these ancient and fascinating cultures, subcultures.
And they don't have IDs or passports, so they actually don't have any rights at all. Right? They don't even know when they're born.
And they can't even say this is our land, because they've got no proof that it's their land, or especially if they're nomadic.
Yeah.
What is
so? I think that photographers are the good photographers are sort of keeping that understanding and going there and talking to them. They really love it if you're interested.
Yeah.
A lot of photographers aren't interested though.
No, a lot of photographers turn up with a camera in hand going, like, I mean, I
find that really upsetting.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's rude and obnoxious.
Another
and
reason
ignorant.
why I sort of like to go on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just did a video about this, actually. I don't think we've released it yet, but just going into a scene or going on to, especially portrait photography. I mean, do you have much like daily hands-on involvement with bungalow living? You do?
Oh, bungalow living. Not as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I used to be very involved. I'm still involved. But I set up my own company as well, my own foreign investment company for the photography. So that was a really good move because I can do a lot more.
Yeah.
But I'm still involved in, designs and samples, but not as much. I'm going to probably set up my own with the Giovanna photography. I'll probably do a little collection for myself now, splitting up a little bit. Yeah. But I always told my husband that when I got to a particular age, that I would be pursuing more of photography. That's my future.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why this year I've been traveling a lot to try and get a bank of photos.
More content.
So that next year I don't have to travel so much. I'm going to concentrate more on Bali.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're on location and you're with a tribe or people that you want to photograph, what is the technical process that you go through? Do you set much of it up, or is it just kind of you snap while you can,
probably both?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably both.
Because you talked about Steve McCurry, who one of my biggest heroes. I know he's controversial. I'm not quite sure why. I think he's a little bit. I don't know. Haven't seen much about him, but people have said he set stuff up. So what? Like if you
it's not that easy to set it up.
It's not. And
I mean,
you have to have a vision.
You set it up, looks ridiculous.
Yeah, you have to have a vision.
So,
you're not. He's not copying anyone. It's like, no, I want this. I have this idea.
Yeah, I think it's
incredible.
It's not like,
but
also his lighting. The way
he's using real people from that area or from that location. It's not like he's getting models in and doing. It's like people don't say that about fashion shoots. That was all set up. So well, most of photography is, unless you're a documentary photographer, right? And then even then you're deliberately in an environment which is, contrived in itself. So I don't like it when people say that, but so you kind of, if you
have to do your own thing, really, don't you?
Yeah,
you have to do your own thing, and
He is amazing. So you're obviously talking to these people very carefully. Do you direct them much?
Some of them.
Or, you have an idea about how you want them to pose? Or...
They're all different, different tribes are sort of different. Some of them you just sort of follow them around. There's a big gap between them and us. And then there's other opportunities, but you have to go back and know them, like I've known them from before. I've got to know the mothers and things like that. They're the best ones when they recognize you.
Right.
Sort of they even have a nickname for me.
Which is?
Nakalui.
Nakalui, what does that mean?
Nakalui. Being lost in the forest. I'm always sort of wandering on my own away from the other photographers.
Nakanui.
Yeah, Nakalui. So they're the best shots, the best shots. But yeah, sometimes you'll see the lighting's nicer over there. You need to spend more time, really. I need to spend probably 2 weeks camping with them in the future, because you get to know the lighting and to relax with them. They're the best shots. Yeah. So it's a bit of both, agree. I suppose.
Speaking of best shots, do you have any like favorite shots of yourselves? Well, some people do and some people don't.
Yeah, I do have quite a few favorites because you did ask me that before. There's probably quite a lot that I like. But I did
bring them out.
But this is only a photocopy, so it's not a very good. So these are 2 that I particularly liked.
We'll put these on the screen as well for people watching.
And you probably wonder why it's one of my favorite photos, because I got so many beautiful ones, but I particularly like this. And this got an incredible reach for me on Instagram, because people seem to have picked up on what happened. So on this photo, it's a little girl. I was at Lake Turkana actually doing a little photo shoot. And this old man came past with his daughter, this little girl. And she just was standing there. She didn't want to keep walking. She kept on just staring at me. And he came over and he said, "Would you photograph my daughter?" He said she's quite intrigued because she's never really seen a white, like Westerner before. And she's sort of intrigued at what you're doing. And I thought, oh my God, this is a pretty amazing opportunity. So I said, yeah, can I take a photo? So I took this photo. And one that I thought was so amazing is that she's dressed like this all the time, like with all this beadwork and this beautiful headdress, but it's the expression on her face that really inquiring as to who are you? And I'm looking at her, and I just snapped that photo at that moment. But I always remember that split second I took that photo and how intrigued she was. And I looked at her. And then I showed the father, and he just absolutely loved that photo.
It's wonderful. The thing that sticks out. So she wears this every day.
Yeah.
The thing
they don't take this off, and the parents make these colours, but they don't take them off because that's part of their wealth.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that makes this photo is her expression.
It's her expression.
It's not what she's wearing, it's her expression. It's amazing. And
sometimes I'll post a photo and think, most people probably won't pick up on that. But with this one, 18,000 people did. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was amazing that they actually picked up on that expression in her face.
Yeah, I love it when you can see the photographer.
But isn't it a really simple photo though? Yeah. I mean, it's really simple, but it's capturing that little second.
Yeah, but
there.
Humans aren't simple, and that's the beauty of portrait photography, is that like aesthetically it could be simple, like in terms of the technique or the whatever. But when you have the eyes and you think about who that person is, what they thinking, what they go through, their emotions, their thoughts, their intelligence, whatever, their language, you have all of that in someone's eyes.
And the dad standing there, he was really old, but he was so proud, you know.
And you have your own experience surrounding this photo, right? Yeah. So it's even more powerful.
Yes, exactly. And also it was lucky because it was actually near the lake. So I shot up a little bit. So the background, that's always perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then this was the other one in the same area. But I remember taking this photo as well of her. She really wanted me to take a photo because she's an artist, her hair. And then I went over to move this because I thought, oh, that looks funny, sort of on her nose. And I went over just to move it, and she stopped me. And she looked at me like, this is my art. Just take it as it is.
I love that bit. I think that's what makes the photo.
I tried to move it out. Like, hang on, what's... And she just sort of like, no, if you want to take my photo, you take it as
you
I
have
am
all
as
of
an
these
artist.
these curves and these
Yeah.
lines, and then you've got this, which
Mm.
is just you
And
know,
she just stood so still for me to take that. And then I showed her, actually with both of them.
what is in her head? Is it mud or is it?
Yeah, they put clay in there. It's
Clay.
like a red clay. Yeah.
Wonderful.
They well, in that area there's no water. It's pretty sad around that area actually, because all they eat is fish. Nothing grows there. It's one of the hottest places in the world. It's sort of on the equator.
Yep.
And so all they have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is boiled fish. So it's becoming a really big problem with the kids. Yeah, like their teeth.
This is Omo?
Lake Turkana.
Turkana.
Yeah, this is in Lake Turkana. And and these kids are so incredible, but when you think of the life that they live as well, and the parents, the way they put the beads and the decorations, it's quite
so much pride,
quite humbling. Yeah. So I enjoy that stuff.
And this was popular as well with your audience.
Well, I did this one, and the other one I did of her, where I saw her later, where they love the watch straps.
Yeah,
it's a real sort of fashion symbol, and they trade beads, but also if they can get a little watch strap, they love it. And I saw her later, and she had the watch strap there, the Rolex watch strap, and I took a photo straight on with that, and that was another shot that I really loved. Yeah, kids expressing their creativity is amazing.
You have children of your own?
I do. I have 2 children. Yep. Yeah.
Do you photograph them much?
Well, no, they're a lot older now. Like they're in their 30s and 40s, and but they're also my daughter's very creative. She's an artist. She actually came with me to the Omo, and she set up little art classes for the kids, which was really nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. When you kind of get these photographs and you decide what to do with them, I know you're doing a book at the moment. Is that correct? Is that your first book? Or?
It is the first book. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've had 3 publishers ask to publish a book for me, but I'm self-publishing this one because I feel there's too many restrictions.
Yeah.
They dictate you a lot, and then you have to buy the book from them. So it's sort of self-published, and it'll be we've nearly finished it. Images with Soul. Tribes of Africa, it's called.
Okay, so across different tribes, essentially, not
in Africa.
Okay.
My favorite ones.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And talk to us about the process of doing, because it's a big task, right? Doing a photo book.
Yeah. Well, the main thing is to find someone who can publish it. So we first of all looked in China, because that's what everyone recommended, to go to China. They're very cheap, actually, to get them from China. But I've always liked to support where I live, but that was a recommendation. But we found them a little bit difficult to communicate with. And then luckily someone came into my gallery, local, Ted, his name is, and he has published, I think, 3 books in Bali. And he recommended a place in Jakarta.
Okay.
So 2 days later, we went over there to Jakarta and met them, and they were brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they were so amazing, so professional. Yeah, they specialize. No, not cheap.
Okay.
They specialize in coffee table books, and the paper. We talked about the absorption on the paper and the cover and thickness. Absolutely professional. So much fun. They were incredible. So we basically came back. They gave us a recommendation for a company to do all the layout for us, who's in Jakarta, but also comes to Bali. So we met him, professional. So between them, it's just been amazing. Yeah, their guidelines. But, I just choose the font. The font's so important. Yeah. And sort of gave an example mainly of the style of the book. And they've just gone with it. It's amazing. It's amazing living here.
Everyone should move here. Don't.
Yeah. So it's and also to choose the photos, I think it's about 210 pages. But they said, "Oh, how long will it take you to choose the photos?" It was really easy. Yeah. We just went through, because we actually have on our website, the most popular photos. So we just picked all those ones.
Ah, okay.
Because they're the ones that people had been asking.
Okay.
And we had to keep on track a little bit with that. it's not to write too much. It's a coffee table book, and not to get so much into all the, the historical side of it, because there's people that are really good at that. So we've tried to keep it more to pretty much what people have been asking for. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is that released?
In October. You'll be invited, of course.
Okay. Awesome. Yes. We will definitely buy a copy. I can't wait.
Yeah. Are you going to do a book?
I would like to, yeah. I was
Because I
thinking,
can give you all the recommendations.
I was going to ask you. Yeah, I was interested when you talked about this company Jakarta and how impressed you are of them.
Very
I'd
impressed.
love that recommendation, because cost is obviously important, but you usually pay for what you get.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
especially if you can go, and if we live here and we can go to Jakarta and actually be with them.
Exactly. We went in one day.
We
flew there in the morning, and they're very hospitable, and they brought a lot of their other staff in. I was amazed at how professional they were and great. And since then, they've just, been really helpful. But when you're set coming back, so we've been doing the writing, we send it to them, and then they send it back with that font and the spaciousness and everything. It's like, oh my God, it looks so professional.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm
but
really happy
easy,
for you.
easy.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'm sure you'll be bringing your book out soon.
Well,
I love your photography, actually.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I like
working
it a lot.
hard on it. Kind of doing the same thing as you, like just trying to get as much content and doing as many trips as we can this year.
And where do you go?
All over. Actually, I'm focusing. I got to a point where I want to go here and I want to go there, but there was no cohesiveness to my images or the series of images.
Exactly.
They were just individual series.
Yeah.
So now, you start thinking about, okay, what is my work about? What am I trying? What is my voice here? What am I trying to do? And so we've been doing more Indonesia, and because I love this country so much.
Yeah.
And there's so many like interesting subcultures here. So yeah, I think this year, next year, we're just going to keep kind of exploring more and more of Indonesia. And then, I'd love to do a book one day. I'm curious as to when you get to a point that that you want to do a book or can
we know
successfully put a book together.
The one thing they ask is how many copies do you want?
Right.
Because it's a different price.
Yeah.
So from 500, 700, 1,000, 1,500. So I just asked the obvious question, what's the average book? How many do sell? What is the average? And they said 500. I thought, God, that's not many. That's not many at all. So we just looked at the prices. So we just sort of went through our list of people who have been asking, when is your book coming out? Are you going to do a book?
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. And we could sell 500 pretty much straight off the bat. So that's why I decided to self-publish it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you've already got that market data, right? You've already got the followers.
And we know what they want.
Yeah.
They've actually, as I say, through Instagram, through private messages, we sort of know what they want in that book. So it's been quite easy to sort of put that together.
Why do you think your followers follow you?
Probably the key is that they mix it with interior design as well. It's not just photography.
Okay.
And that's so, and I shoot for that as well. Like I really love documentary photography, and sometimes I take those shots. I'll get on the ground and the kids are running and I'm shooting up and I look at them and think, oh my God, that's such a great photo, but no one would buy it. Yeah. So I shoot for people's homes.
Okay.
And they get inspiration from my photography for their homes.
Okay.
Because we get lots of, I'm honestly amazed that we get orders from all over the world, like from America and Africa. And I always say to my staff every day, because we have a meeting every morning, that's amazing. That's just amazing that they're actually buying from me. I'm in Bali, and there's so many photographers out there. So why do they do that? It's because they're inspired by interior design, their own home, and the feeling and a certain look. And I've gone into that, tapped into it.
Interesting.
That's why I have to be careful when I go for photo shoots. That's why we have a big discussion before I leave. We print them out like this, actually. We just print them out and we go, yeah, and I go there. So when I go to the photo shoots, I know exactly what I want to shoot. And then you go off a little bit on spontaneous sort of photos.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
That would
other
be
than
it.
the photography book, what does...
And then I've done my affirmation cards,
yes, you
which
talk...
is one of my biggest sellers.
Tell us more about
and
those.
I sell them in Iceland. I sell them all over the world. Yeah, well, they're actually made here as well. I could have got them made in China a lot cheaper, but I wanted to, again, support the cottage industry. So each box is actually handmade in Bali. Each card is printed, and they've got a little soft edge around them. All that's cut by hand.
Wow.
And then there's a little stand, little wooden one. That's all made, and it goes in the affirmation cards. And then there's little quotes on the back, like "You are enough," "You are good enough," that type of thing. So, yeah, so they're little cards that, we get orders from everywhere. Again, I think that's amazing, because affirmation cards, they're quite a big thing now, very new age, but people really love them.
And you sell those on through the homeware, through Bungalow Living, or you sell it through...
Bungalow Living do sell them.
Okay.
But we sell them online as well,
Okay.
and in the gallery. Yeah.
What else?
And I get a lot of messages from people who will actually say how much the cards have helped them, and how they've given the cards to somebody else. They've gifted them to somebody else, and then that person sent a message to me. And so it's quite beautiful.
That's lovely.
Quite love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you proud of what you do?
Yes, I always say it's about sharing your joy.
Yeah.
And I think that's my life now, is I want to just share my joy. Yeah.
Joy of...
sharing what I do, bringing joy to people that put the photographs in their homes, and messages I get from people, to say, when I wake up in the morning, I just want to see what photograph you put there. And I just say, thank you, It's a nice place to be. That's what photography brings to you as well. But you have to find your market.
Yeah.
You have to find your brand.
Do you give any of your photos back to the people that you photographed? Like when you return, do you
Not really. I know a lot of photographers do that. I have gone back and produced little booklets and have shown them. But I know that photographers will go back and show them all. But there's a small group of people that I've shared with. Generally, the ones that I've sold the photos, I will go back and I'll also give them something as well to thank you. And I do sort of give back a percentage of my of what I sell. There's a set percentage that I use. That I don't say too much about it, but there's a little bit on my website about how I do give back, but probably more than what I say.
So, speaking of giving back, what can you advise, like any kind of piece of advice for people who want to do what you want to do, for budding photographers who look at you and go, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Can you give any
Well, I think you have to be authentic, and I think you have to really have the passion to do that. It's not that easy though, because most people have to survive, right? They have to have a job, and I'm at a good time in my life where I can travel and I can spend some time. It's a little bit of a luxury to be able to have that freedom.
Yeah.
To be able to travel.
Yeah.
You're at the same stage, I think.
Yeah.
But for young ones, it would be very difficult.
Yeah. Because these types of trips cost money.
Yes.
So
yes, they do. And even on your own, they cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
In fact, they could even cost more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking $20,000, $25,000, to go and do this. And I'm always, I must admit, I am always amazed when I do talk to other photographers and I say to them, what are you doing with your photos? And they go, oh, just friends or Flickr. And I'm thinking, that's...
Flickr, is that still around?
Oh,
Jesus.
yeah. Whereas I feel, that my photography pays for my equipment, pays for my flights, and also I can give back as well. Yeah, that's important.
Absolutely.
Very important.
What can
people say to you, how do you give back? It's not that easy. You can't just go, these people don't have bank accounts. You can't just send them money. And if you do send them money, that can cause problems. There's a lot of psychology involved in that. And what I have done, to help them is actually worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the best ways us as photographers can give back is sharing your work.
Yeah.
So, increasing awareness out there of certain difficulties that these people are going through.
Yes, and helping certain charities that the money goes direct to the tribe or to the people. Yeah.
What can we do as your audience to help give back or to help these causes?
I think one of the good ones I really like is Survival International, because they're very good at what they do, and I do support them with tribal rights, because they have lawyers and they have a very big setup, and the money definitely goes to the tribes. It's something that you have to look into personally. I like to give the money direct into their hand as well, which I do. But yeah, I think tribal Survival International would probably be a really good one that I'd recommend.
Okay, we'll try and link that then, at least on when we post it, so people can give if they want to give, or buy some of your stuff. We'll wait for the book, because then we know it's going into good hands.
Yeah.
Let's finish off. I wanted to ask a question that actually I ask most people, and that's, how do you define success as a photographer, or do you not even worry about that?
For me, success as a photographer is that, well, you have to fund your photography, that's for sure. I think pretty much, that your photography can fund your travel and can fund your equipment. Otherwise, it's a very expensive hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it. Just maintenance of your passion, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we also have a tradition on the podcast where we get a guest to write a question for the next guest. And so our previous guest, I've got a question from her here, so I'm going to ask it to you. I don't want to put you on the spot, but hopefully it's an easy question. If you could collaborate with any artist on a photography project, who would it be, and what skill set would they possess?
Who would it be? Well, I could say Steve McCurry, but I know that he's probably too famous now.
No, it's just hypothetical. So
a hypothetical.
Why him? What skill set would he give you that you?
Oh, I would just love to have conversations.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I've seen some of his work from Myanmar, which I love going there. Just finding out, just having a conversation with him and talking to him, and maybe photographing near him would be really fantastic. I'd love to do that. What else was the question?
Who would you want to collaborate with, what and why, and what skill set would they possess?
Oh, okay. Collaborate with someone who's passionate about photography. I think we sort of touched on that before. That someone's sort of on the same wavelength and understands photography the same as me. That's who I'd love to collaborate with. Yeah,
it's few and far between.
Few and far between, and also different countries. So maybe it would be you.
Let's do it. I'm up for it. Well, the kind of final question I had was, from your big audience that you've garnered over your years and your amazing work, is there anything you think that they would want to ask you if they were present here today? Is there any question that you think that you would answer, or you think that they would want to ask you?
That someone would want to ask me?
Yeah.
As an example?
Yeah. I mean, I know you get DMs and comments and stuff, but if they saw Giovanna on a podcast and go, I want to ask her this question face to face.
Well, I do get asked lots of questions, like how do I travel, and how a lot of people say, I wish I had your lifestyle, so how do you do that? Well, you have to be able to fund it, basically. Yeah. So I think you have to work through your brand. You have to work out. It's definitely the difference between a hobby and actually being able to travel. And also, it's important to me to have enough money there to give back as well. It's not just about me. The part of a lot of the joy for me, which you'll see in my book, who the book is dedicated to, is someone from the tribe that has changed my life. and has explained a lot about what they go through. And that's where I'm giving back as well. And that's a complete joy as well, you know, that you have enough money to do that as well.
Yeah.
It's also a whole collection of things.
Yeah.
Not just a small thing.
And it takes time to build that up, right?
Especially now.
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult.
Yeah.
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 Because people just snap off anything now because it's so easy. So you can get very caught up in that, just taking photos of this, that, and the other. But as you know, to get shots like this, it takes time. It takes a lot of trust and feeling and that definitely, like, you know, when I was saying, you know, you'd want to go and spend a week or 2 weeks with a tribe, well, you can't just go and sit there. You have to have people that can drive you there, people that can cook for you. I'm a vegetarian, you know. So all of that's very expensive. But that's why I was thinking, you know, to collaborate with someone. I think you've sort of nailed it there. Yeah. Because you can't really do it on your own.
No. But
you can't really do it with other people that don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that because I know to you about that. Yeah, we have a lot in common in terms of how we do projects and how we go and take photos. So I know exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
And wanting to just have that space to create, right?
Yeah.
And to connect.
Yeah.
But also like share that experience, come together and they go, oh, what did you get today? Or, you know, just share the whole project with someone else.
Yeah.
Who respects that process and understands it. I mean, how many fixers and guides have you been with and like, oh, they don't quite get what I need to do here? And some, they just get it straight away. Okay, I need to, you know, this, even just times of day and what you need to say and just putting people at ease. And so, yeah, it takes time to kind of find those people and get that empathy and understanding. But I think that's part of the joy in the art as well, which no one ever sees, right? Your audience will never see that unless they're right there with you.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's the nice bit about it. It's just that. That's the real joy of it for me as well. And the people that you do it with or do it for or interact with. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's been wonderful to have you on. Thank you so much.
It's been really great to talk to you as well. And I've learned a lot about you. And I do follow you, by the way.
Oh, great.
And I love all your podcasts. Yeah. I'm sorry it's taken
if you
so
have
long
any
for me to come in.
if you have any recommendations for people or photography friends that would be interested in coming on
in Bali?
In Bali, or actually I've started doing.
Well, you know Daniel Corden.
Yeah, but he's so busy. Like I've been trying to get.
He's one of my favorite photographers now.
Is he?
Just as a person.
Yeah, I haven't met him, but he seems.
He'd be one of the most generous photographers I've ever met.
Wow. Just
in knowledge and his whole way of being. He just wants to share everything. It's amazing.
Yeah, we've got to get him on.
He is like I did a shoot with him and I got some really, really good shots, but he's just such a nice person. Very interesting and so incredible in his field.
Yeah,
he would be the one you want to get in.
Well, I nearly got him in and then he's just always away. And he's always just doing, he's obviously very successful.
How far?
Workshops
and he's got 3
travels. And, so I don't know.
When
I
was shooting with him, I think it was like last year or something, he just had a baby. Like
he clearly loves it. His passion is yeah. What does the Giovanna in 5 years look like? What are you doing? Same thing, or do you have plans for longer term plans with the photography?
Next year, I wanted to spend more time in Bali. That's the next role, was to finish this book, and then probably the next book would be on Bali. Actually, Images with Soul. It'll be the same heading, but Indonesia or Bali, and then I'll do one in India, and then Myanmar. So it's a series of books.
Wonderful.
So that's pretty much the next 5 years is what I'll do, and have my gallery and have coffee if you.
Yeah, and if people are in Bali watching this, have to go. What is your gallery called again? Is it Giovanna Photography Gallery?
Yeah,
it's wonderful. Yeah. People need to go and get a free coffee.
Yeah, free coffee. Yeah, just say your name and you'll get a free coffee.
Just to sit in there and to quote the Mood podcast, and you get a free coffee. There you go.
Yes.
We
will honour that.
We will come and visit, and even if it's not before your book launch, we will definitely be there for whenever that comes out. So. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm glad we got you here, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure for me as well.